Good morning, gentlemen. It's nice talking to you once again. It's going to be a short video, but frankly, I began to enjoy making these videos. And it's a wonderful hobby to pass time as well when I'm not writing my novels and books and when I'm not working. So here's another short video. I hope you like it. I will talk about the Chinese reaction to the visit of Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan. Now we already have discussed the history of Taiwan, how it used to be part of the Japanese imperial empire for half a century, and then President Truman foolishly handed it back to the Chinese. And then Chiang Kai-shek got defeated in China, ran away and came here with a million followers. And he started claiming, I am the China. And the Americans humored him and they said, yes, you're the China. So we accept one China policy. A big blunder. But it's all now history, and there's no point in talking about it. Now, as it stands, Taiwan is a province of China as far as the world is concerned. And China considers it a renegade province, and they feel they have every right to conquer it and take it back and incorporate it in their system of government. The only fly in the ointment is the American military, which is positioned there with the Seventh Fleet, and they have promised to defend Taiwan against a forcible union with China. Americans recognize the one China principle, but they do not want that force should be used to incorporate Formosa into China. And the Chinese have been watching this movement very carefully. They've been building up their capability because they are aware that the Americans have a devious plan, and in the long run, maybe after 40 or 50 years, or maybe 10 years, 20 years, when time passes, America will recognize Taiwan as an independent country. I'm pretty sure about it, but that is at a later stage when the Chinese accept it also, which they may or they may not, but we can't say, look in the future and see what's going to happen. So the Chinese have been watching, as I said, and the Americans have been scrupulously avoiding visiting Taiwan. No important American leader ever made a visit to Taiwan for the last 25 years. And now there was a bombshell. The Speaker of the American Senate, Nancy Pelosi, decided that she wanted to visit Taiwan. And she's a bold lady. She's got her own conviction. And though the American military was not very keen that she should visit Taiwan, I mean, the American military, which is a bit of a surprise to me, it probably means that the American military is petrified of the Chinese. It's possible. Nothing is impossible in this realm, in this world. But Nancy went to Taiwan and the Chinese were furious. There were some reports that they would shoot down the Nancy's plane, but that's all bull. I knew it's not going to happen. China wouldn't like to trigger a world war on this issue. But they have acted in a different way. They have started threatening Taiwan, and they've been firing hundreds of missiles all around the island, some of them landing in the Japanese sphere of influence in the ocean. Their fighter planes have been moving very close to the air defense zone of the Taiwanese. And Taiwan is worried, there's no doubt about it. But Nancy Pelosi has stuck to her guns and she says she did the right thing. Now the question is, what next? This show of belligerence by China is not going to lead anywhere. I mean, how will it lead? You keep on firing rockets all around Taiwan, but how long can you keep firing? You can't keep firing for 1 year, 2 years or something. Maybe there'll be a show of strength and then some concrete statement may be made by Biden or somebody and things will subside. They have to subside. But China will not forget this humiliation, what it feels. And the world is watching what is happening. And China would like to invade and occupy Taiwan. But it's not so easy because they do not have the amphibious capability to launch a seaborne invasion, and that's the fact. To launch a seaborne invasion, you must remember that when D Day took place in 1944 and the Allied fleet approached off Normandy, you can know what happened. It was a massive fleet with a lot of air cover, and though the Germans had built beach defenses, they were breached. Now, if the Chinese have to launch a similar operation across a 100-mile sea, it's not an easy joke because there are two American aircraft carriers there, and the Taiwanese have got anti-ship missiles, and the cost of this invasion could be very heavy. That's number one. Number two, the capability is not there at the moment. You need amphibious aircraft, ships, which can move, landing craft, which can move onto the beaches. And then you need an air cover because you can't win without air cover. Air cover is the cardinal principle of war. So all these things add up to the fact that China is not in a position at the moment to carry out an invasion of Taiwan. So this is all bluster. You keep firing missiles here, you keep missiles there, and I would like to ask Mr. Yi what's he going to get out of it. Well, he's trying to impress his local audience. That is the point, because the Congress of the Communist Party is due when they are going to celebrate their anniversary, and this is also the time when Yi is going to be up for election again for another term. Obviously, his opponents are watching very carefully. So he has to make an impression on the public. Look, I'm doing something, don't worry. But it's not that simple. Nothing's going to happen. I don't think anything's going to happen, frankly. So what next? Will it continue as the status quo like this and so on and so forth continues? I don't think so. I think the Americans have a long range plan, and that is to whittle down the Chinese line of thought and make the Chinese at some stage accept a sort of relationship with Taiwan as an independent entity. The British and the Americans failed badly in Hong Kong. They could have done the same thing with Hong Kong, but they thought there's no point in risking fighting the dragon, so they just threw the towel and said, okay, we go. And they've signed some pact with the Chinese, which has got no relevance. And finally, China's gobbled up Hong Kong. They had promised we'll keep the old system functioning for another 40 or 50 years, but much below before that, 20, 30 years before that, they have dismantled the whole thing. So, having lost Hong Kong and Macau, the question is what are the West going to do as far as Taiwan is concerned? This, for me, I would say is a $1 million question. Maybe it's a $1 billion question because what's going to happen? Because the world recognizes Taiwan as a part of China, that includes India, and now Russia has come on the side of the Chinese, and along with China, they have formed a monolith military organization. It's not a patch on the American military, which is very sophisticated. And if the Americans have the willpower, I mean, the Chinese military really can't stand. And America and the China knows about it, and so they don't want to get into all this jiggy fighting on Taiwan at the moment. I think the situation is going to be hot and cold, rather blow hot and cold for some more time, and then finally, the only solution which I can see is that if case Taiwan becomes an independent country recognized by China. Now that is a question which we have to see in future what happens, and it's not a difficult thing. I think the Indian government should start thinking about the two China policy. There are many in America who are advocating a two China policy, but there's not one question of one China, it's two Chinas. And there's no reason why you can't have a People's Republic of China and a Democratic Republic of China. But definitely, I don't think Taiwan is going to fall into the lap of the Chinese. Because if the Chinese were really serious, this was the time when they're making all sorts of threats to invade Taiwan. They didn't do it. It's a missed moment. And I'm just wondering what happens if the Americans position some nuclear weapons in Taiwan. Not beyond the realm of fantasy, it's very, very real. And if they do that, Taiwan will not be occupied by China ever. That's the sad part of the whole thing. Well, gentlemen, I think I'll close now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Share it with your friends, and I sincerely hope you will subscribe also. All the place, God bless, and Jai Hind.